Because if we discovered that the Ark of the Covenant really was an actual artifact and we knew where it was and it does fit the description in the Bible, then that totally changes everything. For centuries, the Ark of the Covenant has been one of history's biggest mysteries, a holy chest reputed to hold the tablets of Moses, the very throne of God's presence, and a sword of unimaginable power. Its vanishing from the pages of history after the fall of Solomon's temple has spawned endless legends, theories, and searches, from Indiana Jones to National Geographic. The quest for the Ark has never lost its fascination, but few have exercised the debate so passionately as writer and researcher Graham Hancock. A few years ago in Ethiopia, he discovered some interesting clues that indicated where the Ark could be. In his seminal research, he asserted to have discovered not only where the Ark could be, but who is guarding it and why the truth has been concealed for so many years. Hancock's words still resonate with chilling authority: it is time for the truth. What he discovered in Ethiopia would spark both intrigue and outrage worldwide. Why the Ark of the Covenant continues to fascinate the world is not a hard one to explain. The Ark of the Covenant is one of history's most lasting mysteries. The Hebrew Bible makes reference to it as a holy chest of acacia wood overlaid in pure gold. As Scripture has it, it held the stone tablets of the 10 Commandments revealed by God to Moses on Mount Sinai. It was transported by the Israelites across the desert, a movable throne for the presence of the divine. The Ark was said to be very powerful. Ancient writings tell of it splitting rivers, breaking down walls, and killing those who tried to touch it without authority. To believers, it was not a container but the holiest thing in the world, a direct connection between heaven and earth. After centuries of prominence at the heart of Israelite worship, the Ark disappeared from history. Most accounts see its disappearance as the result of the Babylonian destruction of Jerusalem in 586 BCE when the first temple was overthrown. Others suppose it was taken as booty and lost to posterity. Others maintain that it was concealed by priests to safeguard it against invaders. Its destiny has never been definitively established, and there is a vacuum left for myths, conjecture, and tireless quest. The allure of the Ark reaches across religions, cultures, and even secular imagination. For the Jewish, Christian, and Islamic faiths, the Ark is a commanding artifact associated with divine revelation and sacred history. To scholars, it is a seductive archaeological enigma, an absent artifact whose retrieval could transform knowledge of the ancient world. To adventurers and fiction writers, it is the ultimate quest. Hollywood has perpetuated the myth in movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark, in which the Ark was portrayed as a magical weapon coveted by Nazis and protected by Indiana Jones. Popular culture keeps reviving the legend so that the Ark is a topic of ceaseless fascination. But apart from fiction and guesswork is a profound tradition in Ethiopia. Ethiopian Christians have been claiming for centuries that the Ark is not lost at all. In their mythology, it was brought to their country in ancient times and has stayed there ever since. The Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Aksum, northern Ethiopia, is claimed to house the Arkansas. Ethiopia's tradition is not a recent fabrication in contrast to claims about other locations of the Arkansas. It has been integrated into the religious and national identity of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church for over 1,000 years. Each Ethiopian church has a copy of the Ark called a tablet, but Aksum is supposed to contain the original. Pilgrims make the journey from all over Ethiopia and the world to Aksum, even though they will never get the chance to view the relic in person. Only one guardian monk is able to go near it, and he is appointed for life. He never leaves the chapel and spends all his time looking after it. The mystery of the Ark is not a publicity stunt to generate interest, but a sign of holy obligation. To believers, the presence of the Ark in Aksum is not something to be questioned, but an undisputed fact that underpins their religious reality. This blend of scriptural, traditional, and mystical content guarantees the Ark of the Covenant remains an imaginative force that commands attention around the globe. It is a symbol of divine power, national identity, and human desire for connection to the transcendent. That there is no conclusive evidence does not make it any less significant. In fact, the mystery makes it more appealing, leaving room for fresh hypotheses and daring exploration. Among those who have embarked on the quest, none has been so popular or provocative as Graham Hancock. His quest into the intrigue of the Ark, the subject of the sign and the seal, would confront him directly with Ethiopia's assertions and arouse fierce argumentation as to what the Ark is and if it indeed still exists. Hancock was not the first person to question the Ark of the Covenant's destiny, but he soon became one of the most resolute to pursue every lead, however unorthodox it might appear. A former British political and current affairs reporter, Hancock redirected his reporting talents into investigating ancient enigmas. He had already written about Ethiopia in the late 1980s and was well aware of its history and culture. The Ark, with all the centuries of unanswered questions, was an irresistible topic. In 1992 Hancock produced The Sign and the Seal, a book that within days was an international bestseller. It was not just an investigation. It was a detective story, a travelogue, and part historical reconstruction. Hancock integrated on-the-ground interviews with priests and monks, analysis of ancient texts, and radical hypotheses that defied traditional academic norms. His readiness to pursue unlikely links lent the book both its strength and its notoriety. The core of Hancock's theory was a radical timeline of the journey of the Arkansas. He proposed that the holy object was taken out of Solomon's temple when King Manasseh ruled in the 7th century BCE. At the time, the king was blamed in the biblical account for having brought idolatrous rituals into the temple. Priests who were faithful to the Ark removed it so it would not be desecrated, according to Hancock. From there, it went south to the island of Elephantine in Upper Egypt, where a community of Jews had a temple for some centuries. Hancock believed the Ark stayed at Elephantine for roughly 200 years. Later, it was taken further south along the Nile into Ethiopia. There, it rested on the island monastery of Tanakurkos on Lake Tana. Ethiopian monks had long asserted that their island had housed the Ark for centuries. Hancock integrated these oral histories into his overall thesis, reporting on them as key evidence of the Ark's southward journey. The last step of his reconstruction left the Ark in Aksum, the holy city of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Hancock claimed that the Ark was transported from Lake Tana to the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Aksum, where it has been housed since then. This was consistent with the Ethiopian tradition that is still followed today. But Hancock breathed new life into it by outlining the journey that took the Ark there, linking biblical history, Egyptian archaeology, and Ethiopian legend into one grand narrative. What singled Hancock's work out was not just the conclusion, but how he framed the search. He journeyed all over Ethiopia, interviewing priests who defended tablets, journeying to far-flung monasteries, and listening intently to traditions dating back centuries. He searched libraries and archives for forgotten documents, introducing the Kabra Nagast, an Ethiopian book of the 14th century that accounts for the Ark's transport to Ethiopia by Menelik, King Solomon's and Sheba's queen's son. By approaching oral tradition and ancient books as seriously as archaeological data, Hancock lent credibility to traditions mainstream experts customarily dismissed. The outcome was a story that sounded both adventurous and authoritative to the average reader. The Sign and the Seal was a bestseller and was translated into several languages. For most people outside of Ethiopia, this was the first they had heard of the assertion that the Ark is in Africa. National Geographic later made a documentary based in part on Hancock's research, propagating the idea further. Meanwhile, scholars were quick to emphasize flaws in his evidence and leaps of speculation he occasionally took. The duality of popularity and criticism would characterize Hancock's career for the next decades. By the publication of The Sign and the Seal, Hancock was more than a reporter. He was a public figure for daring challenges to conventional history. The Ark of the Covenant had provided him not just a tale, but a platform. His assertion that Ethiopia possesses the Ark put him at the eye of a maelstrom of controversy, one that still stirs interest and doubts in equal measure. But even as controversy raged, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church stuck to its gentle faith. For them, there is no mystery. The Ark lies in Aksum, watched by a single monk selected for life, concealed from the sight of the world but at the heart of the devotion of millions. Even the select few are not allowed to view it, and in Ethiopia that has been the very focus for generations about the Arkansas. If Graham Hancock's reconstruction provided the Ark with a potential entrance into Ethiopia, the living tradition of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church provided it with a current residence. For centuries, Ethiopian Christians have held that the Ark of the Covenant lies in their holiest city, Aksum. It is not hushed rumor, but core to their religious identity. Pilgrims journey from all over the nation to honor where they hear the Ark is kept, even though they will never be allowed to actually see it. The center of this practice is in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion, which is one of the holiest places in Ethiopia. The Ark was formerly housed inside the original church, which for generations represented Ethiopian Christianity. In recent history, the Ark is reported to have been relocated to a small chapel on the side of the church called the Chapel of the Tablet. The relocation was done in order to safeguard the relic as well as to shield it from the rest of the world. What is special about this tradition is the complete secrecy that envelopes the relic. Only one individual may view the Arkansas. He is a monk who has been appointed to be the guardian, and he serves in that capacity for life. He may never leave the grounds of the chapel after he has taken up the position. His existence is now one of complete dedication, taking care of the holy artifact and protecting it. This keeper does not even show up in public processions. His work is spiritual as well as physical, and he spends his later years on the Ark alone. The singularity of this has irked outsiders for decades. Pilgrims can go to the church, pray close to the chapel, and listen to the tales, but they are unable to see what lies within. Journalists, scholars, and even senior church officials are excluded. The mystery itself is now part of the mystique of the Arkansas. To the believers, it is evidence of its holiness. To cynics, it is a convenient cover that allows it to avoid verification. But to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, there is no argument to be made. The Ark exists, and that's all one needs to know. This faith has been tested. In 1941, amidst the unrest of the Second World War, the British scholar Edward Ullendorff asserted that he had witnessed the Ark while serving in Ethiopia. He said that it was not the ancient relic of Israel, but a medieval wooden box of local production. His assertion caused indignation in Ethiopia, as the custodians of the Ark denied his assertion. To them, no one outside could possibly have glimpsed the real relic because access had always been limited to the hand-picked guardian monk. Whether Ullendorff caught a copy or whether he was lying remains open to question, but it shows how intensely Ethiopians guard the mystery of the Arkansas. Complicating things further is the Ethiopian tradition of keeping copies of the Ark, called tablets, in every church.